I'm going to relate a story that I've only shared a very small part of before. It's inspirational. It's sad. It's a lot of things, but it really deals with friendship, deals with afterlife communication. It deals with love, deals with suicide, and it deals with friendship. So, for the sake of friendship, I'm not going to reveal the names and identity of this family. Those people that know them will know what I'm talking about. They will know what I'm talking about. But they're entitled to privacy, and I wish to keep it that way. So some parts of this story, I'm going to leave some details out so they remain anonymous. But a lot of people are interested, and I was. In fact, just yesterday, I was watching a bunch of videos on afterlife communication, and the whole thing was about butterflies appearing, and all kinds of neat stuff was going on, and it got me thinking about something that happened to me. I had a good friend. In fact, he's probably my best friend in high school. Um, and him and his family and my family were friends for a long, long time. And after high school, even though he kind of went different parts of the country and different, I was in Vietnam, he was in various schools and colleges and universities, and we took a different path, but we were always friends. When we got together, it didn't matter if we had not talked to each other in 4 years, 5 years, whatever. It was always, we just picked up just like it always was, like continuing conversation. So I value my friends' friendship. Even though other views on things may be different, we value love, we value friendship, we value the basics of families, and we've shared some things together. One of those things was the suicide of his mother. She got despondent, depressed, couldn't fight it. Something happened. I don't understand the whole mechanism, and that's not important. But she decided to take her life, and she did it by combining all kinds of various poisons and things together in a concoction, and she drank it down. And so it wasn't one or two or three things, it was about seven different poisons. So when the fire department came and they took her to the hospital and they tried to help her, they didn't know what to really do because they could only figure out some of what she had taken, and she was in a coma. And I would go to the hospital every day for a couple of weeks and visit her husband, my friend's father, and we would sit there in the waiting room or the hallway outside the room that she was in, and uh, and he talked to me. I didn't do much talking at all, but he talked to me, and I learned about his childhood. I learned about his flying experiences. I learned about him and what he felt and what he thought. And so that was always kind of a mystery to me. And all of a sudden, I was being, given all these things and accesses to his memories and everything. And he told me this was private between us, and so that's where it's always going to remain. But I do remember how much I felt for him. He was almost like a father figure to me, a really beautiful person, and he was suffering. Years later, I found out that for my friend that he'd passed away, and so I went back to the hometown and went to the funeral service, which was at this church. I'm sitting there with some high school friends, and we're sitting in this beautiful church. And we look up at this big, huge ceiling that goes way up with stained glass and everything, and light shining through. And all of a sudden, as this minister is delivering his sermon and eulogies, um, we see a monarch butterfly just floating through these rays of light coming through the stained glass. It was just beautiful. And all of a sudden, me and my friends are looking at it. And next thing I know, I'm looking around the whole church. Everybody's looking up. Finally, the minister looks up, and then he says something about, we have a visitor, an angel here. The departed's come to leave a message. He made some offhanded remark, which was perfect at the time because we were all thinking the same thing. Like, wow, this is so unusual to have a monarch butterfly just circling and circling around over his talk and over the congregation. Okay, that was kind of neat. You could quite chalk that up as a coincidence. Church door was open, people come and going. The butterfly was there, no problem. And we drove about 6, 7 miles away to the cemetery for the graveyard service. We all followed the hearse over. We got there. The minister's giving his spiel and talking, and getting ready to lower the casket in, and I look around, and a monarch butterfly is circling around the whole entire group of us, and over the casket, and over the minister, and once again, the minister pauses and says something, and everybody in the congregation that's there, all the people that are there at this, graveside, we all just fall into this silent reverence. It was like, wow, she was at the church, and now we're at the graveside about 7 miles away, and here's this monarch butterfly circling around. What's the odds? Well, if you're one of these pessimists out there and non-believers, just saying, it's just another butterfly. Maybe there was butterflies all over the valley that day. Okay. So then we got in the car and we drove about 10 miles, another direction, back to the home where we're having a reception, his house of the deceased. And we're inside the house. Doors are shut, windows are closed. There's a screen door open, but the screen door shut, but the door itself is sliding glass patio doors open, but it's a screen door. And we're standing there, and I'm noticing a monarch butterfly flying all around a group of people, this intimate group of people that had come to the house for a reception. And I look up, and then it comes and it lands right on my shoulder. And then it's on my finger. And my friends are seeing it, and they see it, and it's all around them as well. And we're in a state of awe. And it was something that we felt was sacred. It was like, wow, well, maybe this is just another coincidence, 3 coincidences in a row, 3 different locations separated by miles in different directions. And yet we have a monarch butterfly. Felt like the same butterfly. So it circled and circled, and then I finally decided that, all right, it's done its job, and it was on my finger, and I opened up the screen door, and I walked out the patio, and it reluctantly flattered it, got up and flapped its wings and kind of circled around a little bit, and then just disappeared heavenwards. It was uplifting for us, whether it was really what we think it was or believed it was, it doesn't matter. It had the effect of inspiring all of us. We felt that our friend's father was with us and enjoying it, and he was going to do all right. So it was uplifting. And what's that based on? Maybe 3 coincidences in a row? Okay, maybe. What was interesting, I was thinking about this story yesterday after watching a couple of videos, YouTube videos, and a show on after death communications, and somebody was talking about the butterflies and all that. And then when I turned the television set off and I looked in my backyard, and a big monarch butterfly had circled around all my patio, in front of my patio glass window, up and down, and like he was looking in, and then heavenwards. So I thought, well, that's interesting coincidence as well. I'm watching it, I'm thinking about it. Butterfly shows up, butterfly leaves heavenwardly. So we were a few years down the road from that, and my good friend's sister, about 20 years after her mother committed suicide, she committed suicide. She worked for President Jimmy Carter originally, and then she was working for Bill Clinton, where she quit and retired. But she was really one of those early Jimmy Carter backers, friends, campaigners. And when she died, she left all her money and everything to the Carter Center in Georgia and the Presidential Library and all that. So years later, we got invited by President Jimmy Carter and his wife, and myself and my friend and his wife, and two or three, yeah, I think there was two or three of us from high school that were friends. We all showed up in Georgia at the Carter Center and had a beautiful lunch with President Carter and his wife and a handful of people that worked for him in the White House. There was probably maybe 25 people at the most. And so it was very intimate. Had a chance to talk to Jimmy Carter and everything, but they named a pond. They called it a lake. It was a pond in the Jimmy at the center of the Carter Center. It was like pond, and but it was beautiful and it was landscaped. And since she donated money and everything, and she was, being honored by President Carter, they decided to name that after her. So it was her name. When you go to the Carter Center, you'll see her name. That's the name of the lake, the pond was named after her and all the service that she gave her country. And while he was talking and he got down, and then my friend got up because I was his sister, and he started talking about all the work she's done and all that stuff. And we're just watching him. And then all of a sudden, behind him is this pond, and there's a monarch butterfly circling all over the water. And he's talking. He's got his back to it. He don't see it. He's not aware. But all of a sudden, me and my high school friends sitting in the first row or second row of this little small group on folding chairs, watching this, we see it. And then we see it fly over top of his head and circle all around him. And he finally notices and looks up. Another coincidence? Another monarch butterfly? I don't know what you call it. But then we were feeling kind of bad. Just prior to this, we went to a memorial service, a second memorial service for our friend's sister, who was a friend of ours as well, because she committed suicide. And she had a service in Washington, D.C. But then there was a West Coast service for her friends in Southern California. And we went there. And I went there with my friend Karen and Mahala and Linda, all from my high school class, and me. And while we were going there, we were talking, and they were saying, "Oh, what's this deal you got with owls? Every time you're talking about owls, I noticed on your business card." And I told them, I tried to explain to them what owls meant. I said, "Well, owls to me are like spiritual messenger. And so when I see an owl, I know things are right. I know there's a message for me. There's something I'm supposed to learn or know or be aware of." And so I gave a whole spiel about all these things in my life where I needed direction. I needed an answer. I needed reassurance. I needed inspiration. There would be an appearance of an owl statue, an owl painting, an owl hoot, something with an owl. And I gave him a whole bunch and that was just our conversation driving to this service. It was at a church, a chapel, and it had this bell tower. And for whatever reason, we got out of the car, and I'm looking up at the bell tower. And normally I don't just look up at a bell tower, but I'm looking up there and I see two owls. Two owls. This is daytime. This is like 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock, bright sunlight. And I see two owls fornicating, making love, in the daytime on a ledge of the church tower bell, the bell tower there. And I told my friends, and we're all of a sudden, we're like 15 minutes watching this. It just went on and on and on. And I'm going, I've never seen that in my life ever. And so my friend, I think it was Mahala or Linda, is asking, "Well, what do you make of that? Is there a meaning there?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's telling us that life goes on. Procreation is like rebirth. It's like creating life again. It's like, it's not dead. Something's happening here." And so I kind of felt that was my friend telling us that she was going to be okay, that it was all good. And so we reluctantly left the owls, went inside for the service. But I thought, what a wonderful coincidence once again. Owls, butterflies. Just a coincidence.